The story begins in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where lawns are neatly trimmed and driveways shine with polished cars. At the end of one cul-de-sac stood a modest brick home. It wasn't the largest house in the community, nor the newest, but it carried a warmth unmatched by any other. This was the home of Margaret Holloway, a 74-year-old widow who had lived there for over 40 years. Margaret was the type of neighbor who baked pies during the holidays, who watered her flowers at sunrise, and who smiled at everyone she met. Her husband had passed away a decade ago, leaving her the house and a modest pension. Though she didn't have much, she cherished what she had. The home wasn't just property, it was her life, her memories, her history. Yet beneath the quiet charm of this neighborhood lurked something darker. The Homeowners Association, or HOA, had long been a source of tension. To most residents, the HOA was simply an overbearing nuisance. They sent warning letters for grass that grew half an inch too tall, and they demanded repainting for homes that had the faintest chip of faded color. But in recent years, under the leadership of a ruthless president named Charlotte Greer, the HOA had evolved from a nuisance into something resembling a small-town mafia. Charlotte thrived on power. She believed her word was law, and she relished issuing fines for the smallest infractions. Her goal wasn't order, but control. Many in the neighborhood feared her influence, but few had the courage or resources to fight back. Margaret, unfortunately, had fallen into Charlotte's crosshairs. It started with small letters in the mail, a $50 fine for a lawn decoration not in compliance, a $75 fine for faded shutters. Margaret paid them as best she could, though each one chipped away at her fixed income. She assumed that was the end of it. But the letters didn't stop. They multiplied. By the end of the year, Margaret owed over $800 in HOA dues and penalties, an overwhelming sum for someone living month to month on Social Security. Margaret tried to explain her situation in writing, but the HOA dismissed her appeals. To them, she was just another delinquent homeowner. And then, one day, Margaret opened a certified letter that chilled her to her core. The HOA was preparing to place a lien on her home. If she didn't pay, they threatened foreclosure. For the first time in her 40 years in that house, Margaret felt the ground beneath her was slipping away. And yet, what the HOA didn't know was that Margaret had someone on her side, someone they believed to be harmless, someone they underestimated, her grandson, Daniel. This is where the story truly begins.
We'll detail how the HOA escalates their attack, the cruelty of their tactics, and the false authority they project. Margaret becomes increasingly desperate, while her grandson quietly begins to investigate the HOA's finances and shady practices. The tension rises as Daniel realizes that the HOA may have more skeletons in its closet than anyone suspects. The chapter ends with Daniel deciding to fight